As a young radio announcer starting out in Indiana, I worked for a station that carried ABC News and Paul Harvey, and I began recording some of Harvey's broadcasts. I'm glad I saved this one. Let's go back to Christmas, 1965. A much younger Paul Harvey. I took the commercials out so it would fit on YouTube. Sorry about the sound quality. I think you'll love this.
Merry Christmas from the Harveys and from Amway. And from all of the 75,000 and more independent Amway distributors throughout the United States and Canada. We're all one family all the time, but especially somehow today. My, what a news story I'd have been broadcasting less than 2,000 years ago. Now how I would like to be here to broadcast two more. The second coming. And a cure for cancer. In passing, may I say in behalf of Amway and those independent Amway distributors throughout the United States and Canada, how much we appreciate your letting us come into your home once a week like this. And to hundreds of other folks in Ada, Michigan, at Amway headquarters, those who help make nearly 100 quality-plus Amway home care products, which Amway representatives bring to your home. All these people have asked me to take this opportunity on this special day to wish you and your family, on their behalf, the best of health, the best of luck, and a most happy Christmas season. This is all the message they asked me to relay this day, and I'm happy to do so. I guess the real miracle of Christmas is that any religious significance remains, what with the tendency to commercialization. Despite the gaudy tinsel wrapping, the meaning of the Christ Mass remains somehow intact. And though our eager eyes now search the skies for man-made stars, we yet remember best the one which once upon a time stood still over a stable. This is the miracle of Christmas. Not that so many profane the day with self-indulgence, but that so many still trudge through snow to an early service or a midnight mass. I saw a drunken street corner Santa with booze on his breath and his beard in his hand, hauled off to jail this Christmas tide. But I saw the whole selfless Salvation Army standing by its kettle in the cold, giving meaning to his birth and purpose to his life. I saw a woman with shoes twice resoled leave $1 there. No, Virginia, the unbelievers are the greatest proof of what they profess to disbelieve. For 2 centuries they have sought to destroy Christmas. They coined ribald greeting cards to divert the devout. They sought with finite science to deny the infinite. They negotiated with union contracts for Christmas gifts. They crowned the day with imitation gold and hung it on an artificial tree and said, "See." But when they'd done their worst, Christmas was still there, haunting them, shaming them, calling out to them, "Believe." If, after generations of effort to disparage the day, what do you suppose would happen if we instead renewed it? There are no more lengths to which we can go to dilute its significance. Perhaps we should revert to reverence. For if this magical day, despite the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, has somehow survived and thrived, with proper care and tending, the love it represents might heal all our hurts. The faith we could not starve to death, properly fed just once each year, might overwhelm the world. Anyway, we've tried everything else. The revitalization of Christmas will be as tedious as its erosion was gradual, but there is no better time than now, for it's later than it's ever been. Where to begin? With prayerful thankfulness, I think. Merry Christmas, we traditionally say, yet that is not the larger meaning of the day. You know, it's His birthday, not yours. Christmas means something very special to every man and woman and child, and yet no two families will celebrate it in exactly the same way. Many will attend special services, and others will gather with friends and family. But all of us who observe Christmas are finding an extra measure of peace and reassurance now, a momentary respite from the cares and worries of routine, workaday lives. And yet Christmas brings with it many thoughts which are not quite adequately expressed. in the timeless greeting. May the peace and joy of Christmas be with you throughout the year. Now then, Americans, the Christmas story, and I mean the God born in a manger and all that, escapes some moderns. Mostly, I think, because they seek complex answers to their questions, and this one is so utterly simple. So it is for the cynics now. It is for the skeptics. It is for the unconvinced that I wish to submit a modern parable. This is about a modern man. One of us. He was not a Scrooge now. He was a kind, a decent, a mostly good man. He was generous to his family, upright in his dealings with other men. But he did not believe in all that incarnation stuff which the churches proclaim at Christmas time. It just didn't make sense. He was too honest to pretend otherwise. He just could not swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. He told his wife, "I am truly sorry to distress you, dear, but I am not going with you to church this Christmas Eve. I'd feel like a hypocrite." He said he'd rather stay home, but that he would wait up for them. He stayed, they went to the midnight service. Shortly after the family drove away in the car, snow began to fall. He went to the window to watch the flurries getting heavier and heavier, and then he went back to his fireside chair and he began to read his newspaper. Minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound. Then another. Then another. At first, he thought someone must be throwing snowballs against his living room window. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled miserably in the snow. They had been caught in the storm, and in a desperate search for shelter, had tried to fly through his large landscape window. Well, he couldn't let the poor creatures lie there and freeze. So he remembered the barn where his children stabled their pony. That would provide a warm shelter if he could direct the birds to it. He quickly put on his coat and galoshes. He tramped through the deepening snow to the barn. He opened the doors wide and turned on a light. But the birds did not come in. He figured food would entice them, so he hurried back to the house and fetched breadcrumbs, and he sprinkled the breadcrumbs on the snow, making a trail to the yellow-lighted, wide-open doorway of the stable. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs. They continued to flop around helplessly in the snow. He ran after them, tried catching them. He tried shooing them into the barn by walking around them waving his arms, but instead they scattered in every direction. Every direction except into the warm-lighted barn. Then he realized that they were afraid of him. To them, he reasoned, "I am a strange and terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know they can trust me, that I'm not trying to hurt them, but to help them. But how?" Any move he made tended to frighten them, to confuse them. They just would not follow. And they would not be led or shooed because they feared him. If only I could be a bird myself, he thought. If only I could be a bird and mingle with them and speak their language and tell them not to be afraid, and then show them the way to the safe, warm barn. But I'd have to be one of them so they could see and hear and understand. I'd have to be one of them. At that moment, the church bells began to ring, and the sound reached his ears above the sounds of the wind, and he stood there, listening to the bells, adeste fidelis, listening to the bells pealing the glad tidings of Christmas, and he sank to his knees in the snow. Paul Harvey. Good day.
What incredible memories. Index YouTube for Paul Harvey Santa, and you'll find a clip of him broadcasting from the North Pole back in 1965. You'll find he was not only a great newsman, but an incredible actor.